Where do you see yourself? In short term, long term? What is that you have in mind for yourself? What are the aspirations?
So short term is definitely to get in the best MBA program that I aspire of and seize every single opportunity that come up.
Say the Maldives issue that could have turned into an argument, or that could have turned into something which was not politically correct, right?
So for the first time, it was a very heavy decision for my family and for me as well, because it was my father was not keeping well health-wise.
Hi Unnat, welcome.
Hello, sir.
First of all, congratulations on one of the biggest achievements.
Thank you so much, sir. It's an honor to be here in front of the panel.
How are you feeling?
It's a great feeling, sir. It's very euphoric. I would say I've dreamt of being here, so I mean, it feels like the dream is about to come true.
So, let's start with a brief introduction. I think, why don't you take me sir through your profile, your achievements, your journey till here?
Sure, sir. Sure, sir. So, right now I'm in my final year of graduation from Nansar, Hyderabad. And I currently reside in Raipur, but my hometown specifically is Ranchi, Jharkhand. And to tell you a bit about myself, I would say my life has been primarily anchored around the meaning of my name, which happens to be growth and development. So even from my childhood as well, what I have strived for was to develop myself, to grow in a better way. Right from my early school life, where my father was being transferred to different tier 3, tier 4 cities, that meant me adapting to multicultural setups in different schools and different friend circles. And right from there to me moving to a boarding school due to some family issues, I learned a lot over there how to stay around your batchmates 24/7 without having the cushion of your family. So that was again a very life-changing experience for me, because I learned how to inculcate the habit of accepting new perspectives, which I was not very used to while being with the cushion of my family. Then straight away to my law school, where my aim was primarily to explore as many avenues as I can, so that I can be very sure as to what I'll be doing 5 or 10 years down the line. So I started off with my legal internships, which were focused around tech law, fintech, IPR, labor law, and general corporate. I also took part in several competitions, represented my university at national level, reached quarterfinals of a mediation and negotiation competition as well. But somehow the click which I got was in my non-legal internships, which happened to be around the management domain, such as recruiting, content marketing, strategy, and leadership. So that was something where I found myself to be comfortable with, because me being a person who focuses a lot on the basics and fundamentals, and I believe the principles of the business world resonates with the philosophy I have. And again, to tell about my life and not to mention about the person I look up to, which is Mahendra Singh Dhoni, would be unfair, because I look up to him not because of his sheer success or the accolades he has achieved, but because of the philosophy he has, how he keeps things very simple, how he has a backup plan for the smallest of the things going south, and still not worry about the outcome and emphasize a lot on the process. I believe that has been something which I abide by and has defined my academic trajectory so far. And of course, as he had his other interests, including badminton and football intact along with cricket, so do I. I'm keenly interested in poetry, and I follow cricket very religiously. And to sum up my introduction and not mention about the actual calling, which I found somewhere down the first semester of my college, which happens to be mentoring aspirants, mentoring students with how they shall approach a particular exam, or how they shall approach a particular competition, which I believe happens to be from the first principle thinking. And again, something which resonates with me. So that was something which I find myself to be keenly interested in.
If you were to add up to your strengths, what would they be?
Sir, one of my weaknesses happens to be I'm very self-conscious as to what people around me are thinking, and that stemmed because I have been a single child and I was not used to criticism a lot. So when I moved to a boarding school, I saw how people are in the real world, and I became very self-conscious about my physical appearance and my academic performance, and that has costed me a bit of mental trouble as well, but I'm working on it. I had multiple at length conversations with my parents and my peers as to, so that I'm comfortable with the fact that they admire me for the person I am and not for my accolades or for my achievements, and they're there in my for my shortcomings as well. And the next thing which I would say is an aspect that I've been working on stems from one of my strengths as well. I would say I'm good at prioritizing tasks. If I have the 3 to 4 tasks in hand, I would be very sure as to what shall be done first and what how time shall be managed. But at the same time, this implies and this means me not being very comfortable at multitasking. But again, I've been working on improving this, and the very recent event happens to be me juggling between my college exams, my project research papers, internships, freelancing gigs as well, and my cat prep.
So, you told me you have done your UG in Nalsar, right?
Yes.
And that's a law school.
Yeah.
So, how do you think doing your UG in a law school and then making that transition into a business school, how is that going to help you? And what are your plans ahead?
Sure, sir. So, firstly, speaking about my key learnings from a law school, so I got to know a lot about the socio-economic fabric of the country. I inculcated a lot of critical thinking, a lot of perspectives about the world around as to how things shall function, and which are not factual. I mean, but they're more opinionated as to what shall be done, how things shall be in real life, and how blinded we often get in our privileges, etc. I became very socially aware, empathetic. So this was one thing which law school taught me, and the second thing which law school taught me was adaptability, which I believe has been there with me since my early childhood, because I was hopping around different schools and cities, and so the adaptability to various streams, various subjects, various competitions. I mean, one day we would be asked to write a research paper on some labor law aspect which we are not aware of, but still we need to look after it. We need to study, dig into it. So this is something which law school taught me. And the third thing which law school helped me polish was the value of networking. So because I was hopping around different schools, and I made a lot of connections through my internships, networks, through my freelancing gigs, and my faculties as well. So I believe that this entire ecosystem which I am a part of through my university, that is very valuable in me, for me to become a good professional and a good manager. And the last thing, which obviously is a fact for me, is that law and business are not mutually exclusive circles, but they work in tandem. So I know, if I know how the labor laws are designed to keep the interest of employers intact while not bringing the laborers in a very lower pedestal. So this is very business. This is very analytical in terms of the business world as well. The first principle approach, I would say again, how business world works. So I feel that my legal acumen would help me comprehend the business decisions a bit better, a bit critically in nature, and obviously I would get to learn a lot from diverse perspectives as well. So that would be a complete finishing school for me.
So, Unnat, so I think you have a good backgrounds coming from a law school, getting into an MBA. I think you carry a lot of learnings with you. Now, if you talk about, let's say, some years down the future, right, once you pass out, where do you see yourself? In short term, long term? What is that you have in mind for yourself? What are the aspirations?
So short term is definitely to get in the best MBA program that I aspire of, and seize every single opportunity that come up. And I resonate with the business world because I like how practical the subjects are in nature. So one thing which I would like to focus on, and I would like to give a shot on, is connecting with the professors, experienced and veterans of the university, and see if I can contribute to their ongoing research work. So this is something I would like to have, so that my actual practical skills get a bit sharp, and then sees every opportunity in terms of professional life which I would get from the university. And then after say after when I reach at a certain point in my career, I have explored the corporate world. I know how business work, how people, how what is people management basically. Then at some point, once I gain some stability, I would wish to try my hands in mentoring students, which happens to be my true calling. Not because I've achieved a particular, I've been at a particular stage, but because I've been in their shoes, what did they dream of, their CAT prep or whatever exam prep, their college life, their professional life. So I can resonate with the challenges, they can resonate with me. So I believe this would add value to their life, and again, this adding value is something I adhere to. I have all my mostly my decisions are focused as to what value I can bring on the table for the person, be it professional, be it personal, be it my family, be it my employer. So I adhere to the value addition component a lot.
So if there was one field that you would choose post your graduation, what would that be?
So I would say I would enter into something which is more generic in nature, for instance, consulting or strategy, because what I have experienced through my internships and through my projects, the articles I wrote, I got them published. So what I believe I can be better when I face new challenges. So while I'm exploring new fields, I can be better, I can be more spontaneous, I can come out with good solutions. So I believe this is also consulting and strategy rather than a very unicentric field. I believe I can do better in that.
So, Unnat, so rightly said, I think choice of streams are very good in terms of consulting strategy. Always, if you talk about profiles, mostly problem solving, going through estimates and everything. So, anything you've encountered, any experience, learning you'd like to share us? You want something in our internships? Any challenges you faced there? How did you overcome? If you'd like to talk about that.
Sure, sir. So some of the key learnings which I got through the internships I've pursued and the freelancing gigs as well was, the first I got to know how important it is to inculcate the skill of good stakeholder management. How to manage, how to interact with your seniors, with your peers and your juniors as well your clients simultaneously, while not making anyone feel left out. And second, I got to learn how the consumer mindset is being targeted through various means, say content. And for instance, if I would be supposed to give an example, so you are not allowed to solicit your legal practice in the legal domain. So I got to know through the law firm management internships how cleverly you market your content, how cleverly you market your services, so that it is out of the regulations, but still you are in the eyes of your consumers. So I got to know how consumer mindset works, and I got to know how important it is to be timely with your deliverables.
If you can quote an example for the last loophole that you just mentioned.
So, sir, one thing which the law firms primarily focus on is putting, say, I cannot advertise that I have a partner who is very experienced in family law matters or property deals or making deeds. So, what I'll be doing is I'll put up a very easy to comprehend article about what, say, lease is, or what power of attorney is, and at the end of the article, what law firms would usually do and what is an accepted practice, they would put up a sample of the power of that particular document, a power of attorney. So this is how you attract your consumer. The consumer would go through the article. Obviously, power of attorney is something which are one generation older people are very heavily focused on. So you are attracting that consumer, you are keeping their attention towards the end, getting their attention even better by giving out that sample, and it is very obvious that the consumer wouldn't be able to comprehend, so they would ultimately reach out to you.
Let me throw a situation.
Yes.
Right. Let's say you are in a consultant firm,
Yeah.
right, and one of your clients let's say is doing something that is not lawfully correct,
Hmm.
right? But then has been flying under the radar and has not get caught yet.
Hmm.
And you somehow stumble across the fact that this wrongdoing has been happening there. What would your reaction to it be? What would you do in such a scenario?
So, because I come from a legal background, my first instinctive reaction would be to dig deep into the issue. I'll figure out as to what the actual act is being committed, what are the actual relevant provisions, and how grave of an offense it is. For instance, there are two situations: tax avoidance and tax exemption, and tax evasion. So tax evasion is illegal, but tax avoidance is legal. So this is the analytical framework which I would like to have on my table before arriving at any decision. And if at the end of my research I conclude that this is something which is harmful for the company or not very sustainable to the business model, I would definitely reach out to my superiors. Or if I am the project in charge, I would definitely reach out to my client that this is something which is wrong, which you can come under the radar for. So rather than, I mean, not to compromise on your profits, let's find a solution as to how this can be erased from the books, or we can make this compliant with the regulations, but still have your business model intact.
So I think little diverting from your profile. So you know what is going around actually.
Yes,
So
sir.
our prime minister recently
Yes,
said that a lot of outrage from Maldives
Yes,
and
sir.
a lot of geopolitics angle also. What is your take of the overall scenario? If I have to ask you to sum it up, how do you see this entire thing shaping up?
Sir, I mean, my opinions are very offbeat, but I would say that it was just a matter of is Instagram comment or something. And because I guess 2 days prior, all the flights have been cancelled. So I received the notification from East My Trip. I thought they are cancelling all these flights, but then I got to know that this is the government order. I believe that Maldives has been an integral part for our tourism culture as well. And for Maldives, India is an integral part for their tourism culture because the influx of their tourists are mostly from Indian regions only. So this can be, and given the current geopolitical situation where we are struggling while maintaining a balance between our interest with Russia and our interest in keeping Ukraine and the humanitarian aspect intact and on a global level, and maintaining our relationships with the US and China at the same time, I believe that this was an issue which was not meant to be taken that seriously and not to be taken up at a geopolitical level.
Okay, and I think one of the things which we see now is a lot of interest of people in terms of tourism is going towards Lakshadweep. Do you think that island is ready for such a big influx of tourists?
So this was an unprecedented event which we could never think of, and Lakshadweep, I believe, has a very robust tourism department, and because the entire nation's focus has shifted towards Lakshadweep, the government would definitely have policies in place to make it work. Because this is now not just a national issue, but on a very global level issue. So I believe the policies would be there right now, or the island might not be able to sustain that amount of influx. But I guess in a very short span of time, things would be taken care of.
But let's say you're given the task to make the island ready for, let's say, 2 million new tourists coming up in the upcoming year. What would be the top three initiatives you'll think? Or if you have to make it tourism ready, what do you think will be the three key things that is required from maybe an infra level, from planning level, at a government intervention level? What do you think are the key initiatives that
So may I think for a minute and then respond? So because I'm myself very, I mean, I love traveling, though I did not have that many resources to follow my passion, but yeah, I aspire to travel a lot of places. So Lakshadweep Island was something which I've been planning to work. So the first thing which definitely I would say is cutting down or working upon subsidizing the cost of commutation, the mode of commutation over there. So because it's an island, the cost which you would be incurring to fly over there is way greater than which you would be incurring to fly off to somewhere in the territorial region. So and because Lakshadweep, I mean the crowd which is diverting from Maldives to Lakshadweep is a crowd which has a lot of financial resources. But because Lakshadweep has gained a lot of attention over the last few weeks, a lot of middle class people would be interested in going to Lakshadweep as well. So it is very imperative for the government to consider their interests as well. And second would be to subsidize. That would be a cost point of view. Any tourism place is very high on the fooding cost or the lodging cost you incur, and especially with the islands. Right now, I mean, a couple of years back, this used to be the same for the hill stations as well. Bangkok, Siliguri were very expensive, but over the years, it has been brought to a certain extent where it is affordable to most of the section of the country. But the islands are still under that zone where it's not very feasible for you to plan a family trip with a constrained budget. So this is second. So commutation and the expenses over there, and third, because of it being an island and overcrowded, a lot of issues with respect to safety would come up. So having a robust oversight and regulatory framework for that island's tourism industry is very imperative to have a sustainable interest in the tourism for Lakshadweep.
That was a very good answer. I'm going to divert the discussion a little bit since we've been speaking on the professional arena a lot. Let's also kind of observe what do you do on a personal level. So what are your personal interests?
So I write poems,
Okay.
mostly in the intersection of Hindi and Urdu, because I couldn't master Urdu for obvious reasons. But I mean, I try to take inspiration from poets who have mastered this intersection well. To quote some John Elia, Bashir Badr. So their couplets are very thought provoking. And then I follow cricket religiously because of my physical fitness. I mean, I was not very confident about my physical self in my early school days. So I couldn't pursue my dream of going to places in cricket. Though I bought my cricket kit, I joined a cricket coaching, but my physical fitness at that time didn't allow me. But at a later point of time, I did definitely reach to district level swimming and clusters in basketball as well. So, but I mean, I couldn't pursue my cricket dream. So I religiously follow cricket. There's statistics, what should be done, what should not be done. This is my tea time conversation, and I also. I'm very keen on exploring Bollywood movies. Again, this is a very offbeat choice, but I find movies which I can relate to, the culture I come from, and the culture they portray. If that resonates, I would love to watch the movie. That is why I'm not a very huge fan of watching other segments such as Hollywood or something. But Indian movies I definitely love to explore, however underrated they might.
So in the last year, which was your top three picks in terms of the movies?
Last year. So, I mean, I would go on to tell you my top three picks of all time. So, my first, the first pick which I would take is definitely 12th Fail. Because I deeply resonate with the idea that it is only hard work which can take you through uncharted territories and ultimately to your destination. This is something which I adhere to. I am not a very firm believer of taking shortcuts a lot in life. I focus on going through the fundamentals, and so that is something which I resonate with. Second, I would say in terms of artistic display, Padmavat was something which I would keep as my second all-time best movie. And third, I would keep it with Sanju. Again with artistic display and with, I mean, that movie was something which was very touching without any reasonable explanation. How he chartered through difficult situation, and especially how important it was to have his family by his side. And at the same time, I would like to mention MS Dhoni's biopic as well, because my whole life has been very family oriented. So I mean, I genuinely like those movies which showcase the importance of family, which often goes unnoticed these days.
Since you decided to choose Sanju, a question that popped in my mind was, do you think it's a good idea for movies and movie makers to use this form of art as a way to, redeem someone's image?
I anticipated this question to some extent, and I mean, from some perspective, this might seem as a redemption to someone's image, but I mean, there's this concept of being an insider and outsider. So, while being an outsider, I can only speculate whether this is true or not, whether this happened or not, whether this is a whitewashing of image, or whether this was actually in the case. Because ultimately, he was not convicted for Tada on a factual basis. And altogether, all the blames were speculation, mere speculation, and because of his image. He was not a very polished person. So the speculations were made more based on his personality rather than facts. So I mean, I am very critical about this fact that I mean, I am not in a position to assess whether those were right incidents or factually incorrect. So for me, it is simply a piece of art.
You also did speak about a lot of freelancing gigs that you
Yes.
had. Would you want to talk about two highlights in your entire freelancing career?
Sure, sir. So the first one is freelancing is often seen as, I mean, in my age group as a side income source, side hustle. But I would say the connections I made through my freelancing gigs are very integral to my later internships and my preparation journey as well. Because I got not employers, but I got mentors over there whom I can speak with whenever I'm not feeling well, whenever I'm struggling with something. So, how important it is to connect with your employer, or even after you are on a contractual basis. I mean, for them, I was nothing but an email address with some deliverables being done. So, but how the employer treats you in a good manner, and how you should respect your employer, how important it is to have a mentor rather than an employer. That is something I got to learn through my through my freelancing gigs. And second thing which I learned through my freelancing gigs was, I mean, that was a key takeaway that for instance, I started off by creating practice questions for students, but that exposure led me explore a lot of other domains as well. So there's something I mean, this was a key takeaway that I started exploring a lot of things, not being very unilateral in terms of what I wish to do. And again, that bears an effect on my later professional journey as to why I want to take up consulting and strategy, because that I learned through my freelancing gigs, that how euphoric at times it might be to explore a new uncharted territory and excel at it.
Right. So, in a generation where the grind culture, the hustle culture is prominent, people often think dropping out of a program, a college or a degree is not unusual, right? So, in a situation like that, do you think that you could be a part of that culture?
So when I started off with my law school, on the very first day, I always have been in spending my days in tier 3 and tier 4 cities. And that being said, I was not very confident about my speaking skills and how I present myself. And in law school, there were people from very different cultures. There were people from metropolitan cities as well. So I was feeling very left out over there. So the next couple of weeks were very taxing in terms of me trying to adjust over there. But right from there to today, when I am in my final year and I move out of my hostel, find people around me I mean, very warm for me. So I made my image I built my image through myself, and that has only come with tenacity, which I believe is again a very important strength I will wish to highlight of mine. Tenacity and perseverance. So the grind culture, the hustle culture, while I would say that they are very fancy terms, deep down the fundamental block is tenacity. How strong you are when you are thrown against challenges. So this dropout culture, I mean, till the time it is not taking a heavy toll on your mental health or you are not mentally affected than that. So it makes no point to me at least to run away from challenges.
Done. Thank you so much, Unnat.
Thank you, sir.
Be in touch.
Thanks.
Right, so that I think was one of the best experiences I've had as an interviewer. For once, we did not hear similar answers, there was no repetition. So that was really good. And despite giving different answers, even when the questions sounded similar, you still were able to maintain the same image, and there was no juggling between characters. So that was a good thing. I really like how well you've worded your answers, because say the Maldives issue that could have turned into an argument, or that could have turned into something which was not politically correct, right? But you still gave answers in such a way that portrayed that although you're not taking sides here, but then you still are looking at the positive end of it, right? And you also quoted the issue at hand and how something small was actually kind of exaggerated. So that also kind of shows how well you are able to look at the root of the problems and not get involved in maybe what happens on the outside, right? So you are a big picture person, but at the same time you also are okay to look at the specifics. So that I think is a very good trait, and you are portraying that in your answers. That is another good thing, right? One thing that I kind of I wouldn't say I had an issue with, but would have improved my experience as an interviewer, is if you had taken pauses, right? Technical pauses every now and then. So what would happen in such a scenario is, when I ask you a question, जब मैं आपसे कुछ सवाल पूछ रहा हूँ, and then like I press a button and then you keep going, right? So that does seem at some stage कि थोड़ा scripted है. Like you've already, obviously you would have anticipated these questions, but then you having a ready answer, that kind of throws people off, right? And doesn't look natural. So I obviously wouldn't say कि आप pretend करें कि आप सोच रहे हैं or you're taking a pause, but then natural pauses are not a bad thing.
Nano pause.
Right. Natural pauses are good. Don't make them too obvious, right? A lot of times you realize that when people talk, they intentionally take a pause, and then that becomes irksome. One thing that I wanted to add initially, when you did tell me that you are from Nalsar, but you did not tell me what kind of a university that is, or from what back. Obviously, I can see it in your profile, but then there's everything that I can see in your profile, right? So it would be nice, because now at this stage you are representing your university, right? So it would be good if you can add that it is a lobby, so a law school.
I mean, what I missed upon was, now we term it in our circle Nalsar Hyderabad, but I missed upon adding Nalsar University of Law Hyderabad.
Right. When you did talk about, so I this particular point, just because I've made a note of it, I can point it out. Otherwise, I would have missed it. Is that when you spoke about your boarding school, you did add a part when you said that there were some personal issues, right? Family issues, right? So could that have been avoided? Or do you think that was an integral part of the answer? I just want to know your thought process when choosing those.
For me, I would love to be questioned on that aspect.
Okay.
That how important is it to keep in, how important that mention is, because I was a single child and I never used to move out of the comfort zone of my family. So for the first time, it was a very heavy decision for my family and for me as well, because it was my father was not keeping well health wise, and he was deputed to another city. So to make that to make things work, I went to boarding school while my father was totally against the decision. But I mean, me and my mother, we took this decision in standard. So I mean that I believe is very close to my story.
Right.
But I mean, that definitely can be avoided. So
No, I understand and complete sympathy to everything that you've been through. But on a interview, aspect, the issue is the moment you mask it as a personal issue, not many people would want to touch it, and they would feel like there is a reason you've concealed it. है ना? So if you really want to, get that asked, then you have to use the words carefully, right?
Yeah.
You either have to explicitly tell it, but then that will be like asking for sympathy, right? That's begging for pity.
Yeah.
That you don't want it, right? It's clear from your answer. So either not mention it or use the right kind of words so that, so if you really want them to ask for it, you need to make them ask for it,
Yeah.
right? So that's the thing, okay?
So can we term it this way that even though I've always been in the comfort zone of my family, I moved to boarding school.
Yeah.
So they'll ask it why. I mean, if they at all wish to ask.
Exactly. See, so at this stage, the thing for me was I need to prioritize, right?
Yeah.
Because your answers were up to the mark,
Yeah.
and I wanted to hear more from you.
Yeah.
So then my priority becomes: do I want to hear more from this person about his personal experiences or private, right?
Okay.
And with that, personal is not usually, looked at, right? So I would want to know professionally what else have you done because you've done so much. Right, so that's the thing. I like your answer. I love the answer that you've given for the ethics dilemma that I threw at you. Your client is trying to hide something, right? And I think that was one of the best answers because usually what happens, sir, is ऐसे situations में लोग one-sided answer देते हैं. या तो वो बोलते हैं that I would expose or I would directly go and directly talk to the client and let them know. So the one step that you've taken back and said that you'll first dig deep into it and figure out if it's actually unlawful and then proceed and then also look into the financials and see if it is a big loss for the company and if there are any alternatives and then maybe approach the client. First include the superior and then approach the client. That was a very thought answer, right? So it's not like you out of nowhere you answered, but then it was properly thought. So that was good. I really like that answer.
This answer has special mention in my notes also.
As well.
You want the answer when you said I'll dig deep first, understand the issue and then act.
Right.
That is the key thing that people need to understand.
Exactly.
That before action you need to be double sure, right? Because actions have consequences.
Exactly.
Till you're not sure if the action is right or not, till then asking for consequences might be a deterrent.
So with that answer, I automatically understood that he's not an impulsive decision maker, right? He can think through things and then take a decision, which was like that particular personality trait subtly was in my subconscious. You didn't have to say that I'm a good decision maker, but then you did it with the help of that answer.
It also reflects the maturity of a person.
Exactly.
This type of character traits tells that this person is mature and can be put in a position of decision making or authority. Because at that point, when you are at that seat, that position, that is where you need to be mature enough to understand, take a broad look of all the different scenario situations, and then take a decision.
Right. Because technically, ultimately earning itself kind of sounds unethical, right? Like if something costs me only 10 rupees and I sell it for 12, it does sound unethical. But then you bringing that perception, saying that although it is unethical, but then that is what it is, right? That's how business is, right? So that was a good thing. Apart from that, I think we are good, right? There are no other points that I would like to add. I kept looking for them, I kept making notes of them, but then I couldn't find anything where I could. One suggestion I would give you when we were talking about Lakshadweep, so you did show that you are, completely aware of the current affairs. On a more business note, if you could have added the fact that Tata Group of Hotels, right, is planning on opening something. So that could have been an additional suggestion, right? So that was the small note that it was not necessary for you to mention, but if you had mentioned, is there anything else you
I
would?
think most of the things you've covered, and rightly covered. I think on my same very good end feeling for me as well. If I look at your overall package, you seem to me like a definite select. Very good introduction from the very start. You count of portrait that you were in the hood, right? You were in the driving seat. Your confidence was good, flow was good. You made very good eye contact with both sir and me. You made sure that you're keeping both of us in the flow, right? When you're answering, looking at both of us, ensuring that both of us are there with you, right? Your clarity of thought of lot of answers was very good.
Yes.
There's some questions that sir gave you situational, your on the feet thinking was good. Right? Most of the students face either dilemma or at least that flow of their answers when a thought, answer that are already prepared as compared to an answer that they have to think on the feet, right? There is a totally difference of the flow there. In both situations, you fared very well. I think a similar feedback that sir also gave. I could sense you answered it already prepared, a little rodent that that express train was very fast. It would have been a lot better if you had been given some pauses. A couple of very small inputs. I think not something that are iterant, but in some questions I felt that where you had to think and give, let's say, point one, point two, point three. A type of way thing that I follow in myself that I give a summary first and then maybe deep dive into each of the points, which helps you create that story very well for the interview. Right? Now you know that this is the summary, this is the crux. Now I got in point one, point two, point three. And if maybe the interviewer might ask you to go ahead or if not interested that much, he can also take a call at the very first point. Maybe you might not get a chance to go to the point three or the later points if the interview is running a little late or so. Just one thing that you might think more about, but you are an overall package, and I think the final end feeling that you have after an interview, that was definitely very good. Thanks.
Now, I also like the fact that although you were articulate, you did ask for a minute, right? You asked for the permission. And so normally what happens is when that happens, we kind of expect that the answer will not be up to the mark because this person might not be ready. But then the way you structured that answer, Maldives wala answer, that was actually really good. So I was happy that I gave you that minute because for an interviewer, time is crucial, right? There are so many other candidates to be interviewed, and you made it worth our while. So all the best, man. Thank you.
Thank you so much.